1 month on from the floods, thousands of Queenslanders remain in limbo. They're sleeping in torn-apart homes, bunking down with friends or family. Some are even in tents.
3 simple words keep echoing across the streets of flood-ravaged Brisbane. Resilience.
It's going to be a long, tough process, but, you know, we can see the light.
Recovery.
I'm very upbeat, but sometimes I feel that can I take any more?
And regret.
They never ever should have built this house. It should not have been approved to put a home here.
This was Valerie Perriman days after her family was rescued from the balcony of her Beenleigh home.
It was so fast, I had no idea what was happening.
Now she lives with ruined reminders of a life torn apart by rain.
I'm really numb. Yeah, it's really numb.
She's doing what she can, but she's applied for the flood relief grants and everything else. No one's heard anything. We've rung, no one gets back to us.
The single mum only bought the house a few months ago and says she hired a conveyancer to do all the checks, but she's now learnt her home has flooded 4 times before.
We need help. We need to get out of here. This isn't safe.
In low-lying Windsor, those with no insurance are calling in handymen to patch up what they can. Josh Navybox is covered, but the home he's just bought is unlivable.
This slab's pulling away from the house and now it's starting to sink and cause pressure cracks.
Josh, wife Jess and baby Noah are now living with his parents.
You've just spent nearly $1 million buying this house. When you look at it, what do you think?
A big loss. Really big loss. I think it's going to take a lot of time to heal.
At Goodna, the smell is fading and Good Samaritans are still on hand.
Spaghetti, down the bottom sweet and sour.
Ever grateful, pensioner Frank Beaumont has found a silver lining in the chaos.
I lost my teeth. There they are. Look, me little fangs. Yeehaw!
Uninsured in 2011, he became the iconic face of the flood class action. Since then, he has penny pinched to pay a $10,000 a year premium.
But that really doesn't count yet because they haven't decided.
It's been a black month for so many, and battles over insurance claims have a long way to go.
I would always say to people it's worth a go. You've invested your life in this home and your contents and everything that you own. It may take you 20 years to recover. The system is set up in your favour if you understand how to fight it.
With $1 million in stock losses, this Milton piano store manager is hopeful.
But it's going to be many months. All of the gyprock's been removed, all of the flooring has been taken out, so we're on the way.
And loyal customers are coming back. Lexy Hamilton-Smith, ABC News.
The February disaster was the 3rd major flood to strike Brisbane in 50 years. With many of the same properties being destroyed again and again, the focus shifts to relocation.
The Great Flood of 1974 is etched in the minds of Queenslanders.
I've been trying to laugh about it. I haven't had a real good cry yet.
Wivenhoe built in response was never going to be a panacea. The city devastated again in 2011.
I want us to remember who we are. We are Queenslanders.
And again in 2022.
It's like waves of water just coming down and everyone can see it.
Some planning changes were made after 2011, with residents allowed to build or renovate higher. There was a limited number of voluntary resumptions, but most householders were left doomed to repeat the cycle.
The real problem in this community are the low-set houses on slabs.
The state government has proposed a $771 million package to raise, retrofit or buy back 7,000 high-risk properties statewide. But the Commonwealth hasn't responded to calls to split the bill.
Just to the top rail of the windows.
The clock is ticking for Bianca McCauley's family. With 3 children, the need to build back quickly trumps building back best.
We'll do gyprock because of the cost. We can't afford the cement sheeting upstairs.
The other challenge in Australia's fastest growing region is new development in flood-prone areas. This Yeronga retirement complex flooded in 2011, yet still more towers were added. No surprise, it flooded again, with residents forced to evacuate.
It's clear that the lessons of 2011 weren't learnt.
Some, but not all, of the backflow valves promised were installed. But one environmental engineer says levees are now needed.
Just like the rest of the world, we should be thinking about putting a bit of a barrier up.
Experts say climate change has increased rainfall and flooding, and it'll only get worse.
It's not just our buildings and homes that are exposed to these risks, it's also the life support systems, the networks that we're all embedded within.
Emma Pollard, ABC News, Brisbane.
OK, I'm joined by Nick Carroll, who's the chaplain at Eagleby State School and Beenleigh State High. Nick, thanks for your time tonight. Yep. So you helped organise the Mud Army in this area. How did you get them on the ground so quickly?
It happened so quickly because in Beenleigh, Eagleby community, we already have a very tight-knit community. So myself at the Eagleby Giants Rugby League Club, we turned our clubhouse into the headquarters, and then we joined up with Parnia from Wesley Mission, Queensland, and then we got in the Beenleigh Rotary and Nightlight, and then it just went from there, and then we all just worked hard and got it done really fast.
So we had some complaints over the border about the slow response from the federal government and the state government. How quickly did you get your teams out helping people?
It was still raining when we started, so we got in very quickly.
And a lot of people do want to volunteer. Yeah. What advice would you give to the state and federal governments who are trying to organise some of this activity?
Yeah, it needs to happen faster and more easily. So a lot of people from our community went onto the Volunteer Queensland website, signed up, but then were sent to Brisbane. But they wanted to help our local communities. So that's where they started just joining us.
So community-led is the key here?
I think it is. I think it is the key. Our community still has that country town mentality of looking after your neighbours. So we didn't wait for any governments or anything. We just jumped on board and did it straight away.
All right, Nick, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
So Gympie was one of the first towns to be hit, but what came was the biggest flood in more than a century. Some locals are questioning whether the flood-prone CBD should be moved. But a more immediate concern is the huge rise in homelessness since the deluge.
Des and Davina Lawler have set up camp in their front yard with their son and 5 foster children. Their Gympie home was badly damaged in last month's flood.
It's been a bit rough. For the last 2 weeks we've been going to truck stops to get the kids showered for school.
The family's bus and other vehicles were destroyed as floodwaters reached the windowsills of their house.
I wake up each day and it's like Groundhog Day. I look outside and it doesn't look like I've done anything the day before, but anyway, we'll get there.
Che Matthews is sleeping in a tent while still paying rent for his flood-damaged home.
Trying to find somewhere else is just, there's nothing out there, you know.
Homelessness has been caused because of not only the floods, but because of COVID.
The flood reached a record height of 23 metres. 800 properties were impacted, with at least 240 severely damaged.
We're having very good discussions with the relevant state departments about some short-term accommodation solutions for the region.
Mary Street in the CBD is a construction zone. It could be another 6 months before some businesses reopen.
Some have bounced back relatively quickly. Others are still with trauma brains, still in shock and still trying to get their head around how to get back up and running.
History suggests that flooding is becoming more frequent in Gympie, with 6 major flood events in the past 30 years. It's prompted discussions about whether the CBD should be moved to higher ground.
You know, spending tens of millions of dollars to protect a small percentage of the business community probably isn't the best investment.
Instead, the plan is to restrict future development in flood-prone areas.
Gympie does flood, it has flooded before and it will flood again.
Johanna Marie, ABC News, Gympie.